Let's bring you more stories today as President Akufo-Addo has highlighted the Bawku conflict as a paramount security concern for the nation, vowing to employ all available means to address it. Speaking in Parliament in his State of the Nation address, the President described as unfortunate the killings that is destabilizing the peace in Bawku. He said the Bawku has become a sport for mischief makers and extremists. Let's listen to the President.
Mr. Speaker, I must make special mention of the troubles in Bawku. Thriving and dynamic town is being reduced to a wasteland of destruction and distrust. We're spending money and energy that would have been better spent on developing the needs of Bawku, providing security to keep brothers and sisters from killing each other. To speak what should concern all of us, and not just the people of Bawku, is that in its current state, Bawku is an alluring magnet to mischief makers and extremists operating a few kilometers away from the border. In a bid to find a lasting solution to the conflict, in the past year undertaken a number of measures, including the establishment of a special Bawku task force and the intensification of engagements with the factions for the resolution of the chieftaincy dispute. On the recommendation of the Upper East Regional and National Security Councils, 4 radio stations that have been broadcasting incendiary language and propagating hate speech have been shut down by the National Communications Authority. The Chief Justice, for her part, has also recently established specialized courts in Accra and Kumasi to deal expeditiously with criminal matters emanating from the Bawku conflict. Government is determined to do all it can to ensure that there's security in every inch of the territory of our country. But it is also very much up to the citizens to help create the needed atmosphere.
So that was President Akufo-Addo during his address to the nation in Parliament yesterday. Let's get talking on the back of this and go to Zuma and speak to Dr. Victor Doke. He's a lecturer at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Center. Doc, grateful for your time this morning. What do you make of the measures taken by the President, as mentioned?
One, I think the President and all of us have noticed and recognized the Bawku conflict as very pertinent. And as a fact, more say also a threat to the national security and peace of this country. Now, with the President has, elaborated per his sonar address, the right direction. One, when you look at the court set up by the Chief Justice in Accra and Kumasi to expedite issues or criminal matters when it's brought before the court, is very critical, because it's been noticed that one of the reprisal attacks emanate from the fact that when people have been identified to have perpetrated some crime, the courts or the law does not expedite action. So these people are not sanctioned, and hence those affected or the victims deem it necessary to take the law into their own hands and then retaliate. Now, when you look at the aspect of the closure of the radio stations, it is a step in the right direction, because you cannot have radio stations that are used to inform and educate now allowing its resources to be used for insult or whatever be it is. Now, let's not forget, this is the same thing that happened in Rwanda some time ago, where the radio stations were used to propagate violence against one ethnic faction. Let's go to the Bawku Special Task Force. Yes, the task force is there to help keep the peace. It comprises the security and all that. Now, engagements intensified. That is very key. Sustained engagement will help the factions to come together, will iron out the differences, the interests and needs, for the two factions now to agree on a common solution to declare the conflict over. Now, I was hoping that I would hear more of the involvement of civil society, and especially the mandated state agency, the National Peace Council, in resource to undertake A, B, or C. Now, when we look at the role of civil society when it comes to conflict, and especially in Bawku region, in the Bawku area, it's been found that civil society organizations, and notably, we have WANEP, we have Builder, who have extensively done works when it comes to facilitating peace building. So I was hoping that some recognition or some mention would be given for them. And then let's look at how the recommendations from the 201 consortium of NGOs will be implemented, because definitely it will come up. The two factions are still holding on to their interests. Now, that recommendations, one being Permanent Secretariat for the Bawku Ethnic Peace Committee, the local enforcement agency, that's the BIEPC, that is supposed to be between the community and the two factions. Let's see how we can resource them. And then implement all the recommendations, and then we can move on forward from there.
There was also the mention of Bawku being a place for extremist groups to thrive. Is that really the case? Is that possible?
Yes. In the president's statement, he made mention of what the alluring magnet, to mischief and extremists operating in some few kilometers in our neighboring countries. It is very true. Now, research has shown that extremist groups, thrive in the areas of instability. Areas where there's chaos. And when you have this long span conflict, protracted, entrenched like this, it is only a conduit, for some elements, criminal elements, to take advantage of the situation and perpetrate the activities. An example, in 2019, doing my full research there was this armed robbery gang who was engaging the police. Now, the situation is so volatile that any kind of sporadic shootings would deem it as coming from the other sides. So the two sides, that's the Mampusi and the Kusasi, felt that probably their youth were engaging each other, and then they were ready to amass, only for them to implement their local preventive measure, as they call the alert call system, that they had to call and verify from different areas where the shootings were coming from, and then they got the information of engaging gang in the
Dr. Doke, kindly hold on for me. I'll come back to you, but let's also go on Zoom and speak to the Member of Parliament for Bawku Central, Mahama Ayariga, who is joining us via Zoom. Mahama Ayariga, welcome to the program. I want to find out from you as well, what do you make of the President's statement concerning events unfolding in Bawku?
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity, and good morning to your listeners and viewers. We appreciate it that the President mentions our situation in Bawku and gives some briefing on additional measures that government is taking to try and then deal with the security situation in Bawku. We just pray that those additional measures produce the expected results. What he mentions of additional measures, I can say on authority that there were recommendations that have been made for a very long time. Recommendations that if they had heeded to those recommendations and implemented them at a certain point in time, we may not have had the situation deteriorate to the level that they are now. But, better late than never. I just hope that those measures are able to have an impact on the situation now. So I just appeal to all sides in Bawku to cooperate and let us work together to try and bring peace to Bawku.
Well, Dr. Doke mentioned that there's a need for CSOs to also be brought into the fold to ensure that calm is restored in the area. Do you agree with that?
CSOs in the past have helped all the factions and the sides in the conflict to engage the dialogue. So I believe that the track record of CSOs dictates the necessity of involving them in the process, because, like I said, you can only resolve a dispute by dialogue. You can't shoot your way to the end of a dispute. You have to engage in dialogue. And CSOs have been helpful in that regard. So I hope that the CSOs will make themselves available, whether government invites them or not, because that is the mandate they have. They form themselves into CSOs for these purposes. So they can get involved, and I believe that those at the forefront of dealing with the issue won't involve them when they express interest.
And then recently there was the situation of the closure of 4 radio stations in Bawku. Do you think that was a step in the right direction?
This was a recommendation that was made before the conflict escalated, because observers realized that the incitement on those radio stations are responsible for creating a certain anger that gets expressed in the violent conflict. And so right from the beginning, the various security councils at the regional and municipal levels have recommended to government the closure of those stations, but they have been ignored. Now government has listened to them. Let's hope that it does help. Clearly it's an inconvenience to the population, but we'll have to look at the wider security interest of the place.
Okay. Mahama Yarga is a member of parliament for Bawku Central. Thank you very much. Do I still have Dr. Doke on the line?
Yes, my brother.
Okay. Finally, before you go, tell us, it appears that, bringing security or bringing peace and calm to the area has been a very difficult task. What else, apart from bringing CSOs to the area, do we have to do?
Well, thank you very much. I think what we have to do is maintain a sustained engagement. Okay. Now, when you involve eminent people or prominent people to lead negotiations or mediations, and you have to give them that opportunity, force them. Okay. And then we need more awareness and education with regards to these two sides to know that the conflict, the violence associated with the conflict will end them nowhere. Development is stalled. People need growth in terms of socio-economic aspects. So you need to voice out the effects of the conflict. Now, let's see how we can also implement measures, drastic measures, that would enable the youth to surrender the weapons that they are keeping in the system. Let's not forget, all of these things. But if the youth are still having the weapons with them based on mistrust, then we cannot get anywhere, because any lethal argument would involve them using the weapons, which they know best as a lack of violence, which we cannot have.
Right. Dr. Doke, I want to thank you very much for your time this morning.